humanity. Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Welcome to Talking Politics. My name is Robert Press. I write for the Bronx Chronicle, as you can see once this cover comes down by my official press card. I also contribute to the Co-op City News and Park Just the Times. Here is my press card, as I said. I also contribute to the Co-op City News and the Park Just the Times. The latter, like this show, is part of Muslim Media Corporation. I also have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com and Facebook pages 100% and What is Going On in Your Community Board. The views expressed on this show are those of the host, any guest, or anyone who is commentating at the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily those of Muslim media. Then let's go to the weather report. In case you don't know, there is an ozone warning advisory from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., so be careful outside. Don't stay too long in the sun. And today's temperature should get up to about a high of 90, again with high humidity. Saturday, much of the same with a high of 89. Sunday, 87. Possible showers Saturday and Sunday. And Monday, a high of 88, again with high humidity and a good chance of rain. We will get a scattered showers possibly anytime during the day, as we saw yesterday. On to the news. President Joe Biden said Monday that he was pushing for legislation that would bring major changes to the Supreme Court, including imposing an 18-year term for the judges and creating an enforceable code of ethics on the judges. Meanwhile, Chinese immigrants are entering the United States in record numbers, part of a historic global surge across the Mexican border. Donald Trump berated a black reporter who pressed him about his past offensive comments and accused his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, of downplaying black heritage at a sit-down meant to showcase Donald Trump's outreach to voters of color that immediately turned hostile. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris condemned former President Donald Trump on his remarks yesterday, but she made it all clear that she would not engage in a debate with a white man critiquing her black identity, according to the New York Times. As Vice President Harris prepares to announce a running mate, a poll from the Associated Press and North Center for Public Affairs Research finds that several of the top contenders for the role are largely unknown Americans. Arizona's Senator Mark Kelly stands out as one of the most recognized names and has a high favorability, particularly among Democrats. That is who I think will be her running mate, although the survey was conducted after President Joe Biden announced that he was withdrawing from the race and Harris became the likely Democratic potential nominee. Highlights the strengths and weaknesses of different politicians could bring to the ticket and the challenges they could face if selected. Kelly, while better known and liked for some of the alternatives, is still unfamiliar to about half of the Americans. And others like Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, while less known nationally, could draw a deeper well of support in the home states or regions. Kelly and Shapiro are viewed as the frontrunners, according to people familiar with the process, and after the Harris campaign began its vetting with a dozen names. Harris said on Tuesday that she has not yet determined who her number two will be, but she said whoever she selects will head out on a 7-state swing of key battleground states, including Pennsylvania, Arizona, and North Carolina. That should give you a hint on who she's picking. Meanwhile, Governor Kathy Hochul said on Wednesday, there is no chance that former President Donald Trump will become the first Republican presidential campaign candidate to win New York in 40 years in the November general election. The governor also made comments in response to Representative Ellie Stefanik, a prominent Republican and Trump ally who represents part of upstate New York. We might see him, Josh Shapiro, but there's problems with Josh Shapiro, AJ. But let me continue. During the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee earlier this month, Stefanik predicted that Trump will be the first Republican in a generation to win the Empire State. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party, with about 100 days left to the November election, is ramping up its coordinated campaign to help congressional members around New York. It marks a shift for the party apparatus that has historically acted as a little more than part of the incumbent governor's campaign machinery, and politicians in the state see it as a welcoming change. The coordinated campaign has already hired 65 staffers with plans to hire at least 80 more, 80 total by mid-August. Of those, 50 will be field organizers specifically. Additionally, the party will open 35 campaign offices in the 7 battleground congressional districts Democrats are hoping to protect or flip, which is on Long Island and upstate New York. The over $5 million effort is headed up by Governor Hochul, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and U.S. Senator Kristen Gillibrand, along with the state party chair, Jay Jacobs. Hochul has raised over $5.5 million for the state party since the start of last year and is providing the bulk of the cash, over $3 million, for the new coordinated campaign. This is on top of a $45 million effort from Jeffries' allied House Majority PAC to boost candidates in swing races in New York. Obviously, Jeffries wants to become the House Majority Leader, not the House Minority Leader. Former Congressman Mondaire Jones, who is running against Republican Mike Lawler in Hudson Valley's 17th Congressional District, said this effort has been remarkably helpful so far in his own campaign, and he praised Hochul for her part in leading it. Meanwhile, let's go to the state budget. What's happening? The New York fiscal experts said yesterday that state leaders must identify savings as they prepare Governor Hochul's next executive budget, which they expect will be difficult to negotiate because they have to fill the void left by congestion pricing and multi-billion-dollar spending gaps. The legislature passed a $239 billion budget in April, increasing spending by 7.8% amid high inflation and wage increases. But the state will face a large out-year spending gap with more than $4 million next year, and it's expected to swell to $16 billion hole by 2028. They would have to answer questions, how they're going to prepare to deal with this $16 budget gap, or how much the state needs to reduce health or education spendings, its largest expenditures, to make ends meet. The governor and the Division of Budget are in the process of crafting the FY26 executive budget, which will be released by the statutory deadline next January, as the state must have a budget in place by April 1st. April 1st. The fiscal year 2025 spending plan, the largest in state history, did not increase taxes, gave $2.4 billion for services for asylum seekers to New York City, and rolled back state employees under Tier 6. Some lawmakers largely rejected significant cuts to the Medicaid programs and school funding in the governor's proposal last year, unsurprising due to the critical election year this year. Instead, the State Health Department Commission on the Future of Healthcare is tasked to effectively rein in New York's $100 billion Medicaid program. Let's move on to cannabis. It appears that several high-level staffers at New York's cannabis regulation are calling it quits after Governor Hochul axed the state agency head, blasting it as a disaster. The staff is leaving the Office of Cannabis Management, including Nicole Rosa, Director of Health and Safety, Daniel Holmes, Deputy Director for Licensing, Patricia Perisky-Hare, First Deputy General, and Linda Baldwin, General Counsel. That name sounds familiar to me. I wonder if it's the Linda Baldwin that is the wife of former Borough President Adolfo Carrion, who is now the head of the Housing Preservation Development Corporation at New York City. The departures will take years of institutional knowledge dating back to the start of New York's medical marijuana program, and comes after Hochul dumped OCM's head, Christopher Alexander, early this year. Former staffers said the governor's overhaul is killing morale. Since Governor Hochul began implementing changes, New York has issued 730 new licenses, celebrated the opening of its 150th store. A spokesman continued, the fund meant to provide financial cannabis entrepreneurs to open legal pot shops had been criticized as predatory. It was a Ohio-based company, or rather a Chicago-based company, the Chicago Atlantic Group, but they are still dealing with the funding to the stores, open stores. This next item will probably take me to the commercial, as it is a long item. It's about Mayor Adams and his campaign woes. Mayor Eric Adams faces the threat of a significant financial penalties that could hinder his re-election efforts after a city watchdog said his 2021 campaign failed to document $2.3 million in expenses. The New York City Campaign Finance Board put out a 900-page draft audit dated May 31st, and it was obtained by the online newspaper Gothamist through public records request. It provided an extensive, unprecedented look at the problems that the mayor had with his campaign record keeping. Experts say the sheer length of the report suggests careless financial management by the Adams campaign and a failure to comply with laws and rules required of candidates who take taxpayer-funded matching funds. The Campaign Finance Board flagged categories of financial discrepancies, prohibited donations, straw donors, and other issues with the Adams campaign. The potential for Adams' campaign to face serious penalties comes as the 2025 mayoral race heats up and questions linger about the ongoing federal investigations. A broad number of expenses are under the campaign watchdog scrutiny, including payments to some of Adams' closest advisors, money paid to a consultant firm linked to an FBI investigation, and expenses associated with a car crash. A lawyer for Adams' campaign did not respond to specific questions about the draft audit, but said in a statement they will be addressed. He will address all of the concerns raised. The Campaign Finance Board Director of Auditing, Daniel Wildman, in a cover letter wrote that the draft audit does not include any findings related to ongoing investigations. The letter was addressed to Sharon Adams, the mayor's sister-in-law, who is serving as treasurer of his re-election campaign. Sharon Adams, it is noted, also earns a $150,000 salary as a strategic initiative specialist in the City Department of Education. Back to the Campaign Finance Board, which runs the city's public matching funds. They provide $8 for every dollar donated. For the first $250 of a donation made for city residents for the campaign for mayor. There seems to be a lot of information that was not provided to the Campaign Finance Board, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Some of the issues flagged by the board have been described as weird, wild, and rare for a mayoral campaign. The Adams campaign raised nearly $20 million in his 2021 mayoral campaign, including more than $10 million in matching funds. The online paper Gothamist previously reported that while he was running for mayor, the Adams campaign stopped responding to the Campaign Finance Board inquiries about potential violations of rules. Nevertheless, the board continued giving him matching funds. Some of the questionable expenses Campaign Finance Board orders flagged: more than 70 expenditures by the Adams campaign that lack significant records, more than $2 million in spending tied to television ads that lack required information on when and where they aired, according to the audit. Now, Peter, who is representing Adams as the campaign attorney, said the campaign board, finance board's claim of missing documentation does not mean records were not supplied. It could mean that information was submitted incorrectly or missing components. In some cases, it could even mean that one box here or there was not checked. The board also flagged a $35,000 payment to Suggs Solutions Incorporated, consultant firm owned by Brianna Suggs, the campaign's chief fundraiser, whose house was raided by the FBI last year. Auditors said the payment was missing required paperwork. The payment also did not appear on the campaign's bank records. The board questioned whether the Adams campaign spent taxpayer monies at a Brooklyn auto dealership to repair a car from an accident. The campaign paid for parking tickets, toll violations, and a driving ticket. All told, the campaign spent $10,410 on car-related expenses, according to audit. They also flagged 50 donations that because the contributors themselves indicated that they were not making the donation, they were making it on someone else's behalf, a practice commonly referred to as straw donations. Laws prohibit a campaign from receiving donations made by someone other than the person who makes the payment, but in these instances, the donor wrote notes with their payments like my friend is donating for me, my fiance is donating for me on my behalf, or I use my parents' credit card. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has already indicted 6 people in connection with the straw donor scheme. And so far, 4 of those people indicted have pleaded guilty. The campaign is not accused of any wrongdoing, the Adams campaign lawyer says, and suggested that the straw donors identified in the draft were likely associated with that case. At a minimum, the draft audit states that the Adams campaign would likely need to repay over $500,000 that remains in its 2021 bank account after the election, according to the orders, but the campaign may face an additional penalties for providing timely explanation and donation documentation of money that the campaign raised, as well as the outstanding $2.3 million in what it called unexplained expenses. Mayoral campaigns, after 2 of his campaign associates were prosecuted in connection with a straw donor scheme, could deliver a death blow to his campaign. Let me pause here for a commercial. I'll be back with who is now running against Mayor Adams. So let's pause for a commercial. Okay, I guess my producer will interrupt me and bring the commercial on if we have one while I talk.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you.
Okay, welcome back. Yeah, I guess my producer was doing something else because we run several shows at the same time. New York City Mayor Eric Adams Tuesday nominated Randy Mastro as the city's next corporate counsel. Mastro has been known from working as federal chief of staff from 1994 to 1998 as a federal prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office for Southern District, New York. He is going to have problems because some of the city council members, he has to be vetted by the city council. And there is problems because several council members have voiced their opposition to his selection. And as I mentioned, Brad Lander, city controller, has thrown his hat into the race. And shortly after that, on Tuesday, Mayor Eric Adams sniped at him over what he perceived as an implicit lack of support for Vice President Harris. I thought Lander's announcement was going to assist the first woman of color to be the president of the United States, not to take the second man of color from being the mayor of New York City, Adams said in the announcement. Now, on to Brad Lander's announcement. He has announced that he is running for mayor. He has moved his account of about $600,000 over to a mayoral campaign from the city controller campaign. And he says Mayor Adams is not providing the leadership that the future of the city demands. The progressive Brooklyn Democrat told the press exclusively. We're not going to mention who he told it to. Lander lists public safety, housing affordability, early childhood education, and the basics of running city government as the areas he believes that Adams has fallen short. Issues on which Lander and left-leaning allies have fought the mayor. The problem he's solving are the ones he created, Lander told New York Magazine. Okay. An example of the mayor's deal with the council to restore tens of millions of dollars in library funding cuts the mayor himself had previously made. Lander and Adams have a frosty relationship, very frosty. Adams, a centralist Democrat, also from Brooklyn, has mocked and disingenerated Lander, who as a city fiscal watchdog was elected to be a check on the mayor. The controller enters the race quickly getting crowded on Adams' political left. Former city controller Scott Stringer, who ran for mayor in 2021. State Senators Zelma and Myrie have been laying the groundwork for campaign, while Landers' own news has leaked out before he can announce it himself. There are about 20 different candidates running for mayor now. There are 7 who have any money in their campaigns, and actually there are 10. 1 has $100 and 2 have $10 each, but it's Eric Adams, Brad Landers, Scott Stringer, and Zelma Myrie who are the only ones who have any money in the real money in the campaign for mayor. And as far as candidates who will replace Brad Lander as city controller, Assemblywoman Jennifer Rajkumar, who I had on the show before, and she is now a familiar face in New York City, not just in her Southern Queens district, but she is a lawyer and close ally of Mayor Eric Adams. She opened a campaign committee in early July to run for controller. She's became the first South Asian woman elected to the assembly, and Rajkumar has pitched herself as someone who can fix government's inefficiency. She is able to run for controller in 2025 without sacrificing her assembly seat, because that would be an off year to her. So she will be keeping her assembly seat should she not win the controller seat. Other candidates that have been mentioned, Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine has now said that, well, with the controller's office open, it's a possibility that Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine could run. He is focusing his time as borough president on creating new housing. Also, Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, former city council member, as also rumored to be running for controller since Landers' entrance to the mayor's race. Now, other candidates that have announced are Ishmael Maleef, who is from the Bronx, though the controller's race is already garnering attention from current elected officials. Some lesser-known candidates have also jumped in the race, like Ishmael Maleef, an analyst at the City Department of Administration Services. He has raised already about $33,000 in his last filing. Also, Terrell Miller, a former city council candidate in Southeast Queens in 2021, opened a campaign account for controller next year. He has $60 in that account. And let's move on, because the controller does a Rikers Island survey. Here is what the June 2024 New York City Controller's update. The Department of Correction housed 6,432 inmates as of July, 72 more than in June. 2,014 individuals entered DOC custody in June, 70 fewer than in May. They discharged 1,892 people in June, 159 fewer than in May. The average length of stay in the Department of Correction custody was 99 days in June, 3 fewer than in May. In June, the average percentage of staff that were out sick was 7%, a 1% increase in May. Incidents of violence in June increased in every category. There were 73 recorded assaults, 10 more in May. There were 588 fights, 13 more in May. 24 slashings and stabbings occurred, 7 more in May. And the DOC staff allegedly blocked medical personnel from treating Charisma Jones, a Bronx woman incarcerated in Rikers Island, who died after being released from DOC custody. The controller's dashboard, first published in August 2022, monitors pervasive issues in city jails, including staff absenteeism. It says missed medical appointments, but they are not on the list, and they have not been on the list. What it is that the people in custody on Rikers Island, either the detainees or those waiting to be transferred up to prisons upstate, should be going to medical appointments, but they cannot be forced. And the majority of these medical appointments are not covered. They do not go to these medical appointments, the people in custody. Let's move on to something else. If you're looking at your street and are wondering what happened to that outdoor street dining location, only roughly 1,300 restaurants have applied to set up outdoor dining areas in the road or on the sidewalk. 90% fewer than the 12,500 that participated in the program's pandemic heyday. What has happened now, it was reported that last year, Mayor Adams and the council agreed on a new program for outdoor dining where, as Mayor Bill de Blasio said during the pandemic, you can have free outdoor dining. We're not going to charge you. So now the city is charging for outdoor dining. They're charging per square foot, and they don't want permanent structures. They want structures that can be taken down and will be taken down in November. And as I was at the announcement of this meeting at the Havana Cafe on East Tremont Avenue, the owner said, I won't have another street dining cafe because it is too expensive to take it down, to rebuild it, and I have no place to store it. So that's a story. If you don't see your favorite outdoor dining, I know my favorite restaurant, Salvatore's of Soho, which is going on vacation on August 7th for 2 weeks. He no longer has his street dining outside in front of his store. He just has a sidewalk dining, which goes around the corner. He's lucky to be a corner store, so he can do that. That's Salvatore's of Soho in Riverdale, on Riverdale Avenue at 238th Street. I know this is a cheap plug, but its food there is delicious. On to the city of Yes. Mayor Eric Adams' friends in the city council have become foes when it comes to the wide-ranging plan to spur housing across the 5 boroughs. The plan, which comes up for a vote later this year and completes Adams' 3-part City of Yes agenda, has sparked pushback from parts of the city where voters generally align with the Adams centralist brand of politics. Out-of-borough neighborhoods lined with 1- and 2-family homes fiercely oppose plans to make way for small apartment buildings in suburban areas and larger apartment buildings in other areas. And also to eliminate parking requirements and ease conversion of basements and garages to housing, and putting up a unit in your backyard for quote unquote family or your grandfather or grandmother, or to rent out. And their elected representatives I just passed over something. The majority of community boards this year, 34 out of the 59, are rejecting this City of Yes housing opportunity plan, and their elected representatives are following suit, putting Adams at odds with his usual allies. It is outrageous that they're doing this. As you can see, I'm livid, said conservative Democrat Bob Holden. Holden, who lives in a low-slung part of Queens, argues the plan would stress local infrastructure and ruin the suburban character of his district. Now, I am going to close with National Night Out. All right, I will go through the 12 precincts here in the Bronx and tell you where they're happening and when. The 40th precinct, which is Community Board 1, will be holding their National Night Out on Brook Avenue between 138th Street and 137th Street from 4 to 8 p.m. The 41st precinct, which is Community Board 2, will be on Dawson Street between Intervale Avenue and Longwood Avenue from 4 to 8 p.m. The 42nd precinct, which is Community Board 3, will be at Crotona Park, Prospect and Crotona Avenue by Crotona Playground number 9 from 5 to 8 p.m. The 43rd precinct, which is Community Board 9, will be at Randall Avenue by Stickball Boulevard and Pugsley Avenue from 4 to 8 p.m. The 44th precinct, which is Community Board 4 and Transit District 11, will be at Foster Park, 164th Street and Jerome Avenue from 4 to 8 p.m. The 45th precinct, which is Community Board 10, will be at the Rosa O'Boyle Triangle, which is at 3025 Cross Bronx Expressway between East Tremont and Edison Avenue from 6 to 9 p.m. The 46th precinct, which is Community Board 5, will be at Aqueduct Park, 181st Street, University Avenue and Aqueduct Avenue from 4 to 8 p.m. The 47th precinct, Community Board 12, will be at Granada Place between Ely Avenue and Laconia Avenue from 4 to 8 p.m. The 48th precinct, Community Board 6, will be at Prospect Avenue between East 179th Street, East 180th Street from 5 to 8 p.m. The 49th precinct, Community Board 11, will be at Loretto Park which is at Morris Park Avenue and Tomlinson Avenue, also Haight Avenue from 6 to 9 p.m. The 50th precinct will be at Bailey Park Playground at West 234th Street and Bailey Avenue from 4 to 8 p.m. The 52nd Precinct, which is Community Board 7, will be at Poe Park, which is 192nd Street and Grand Concourse, from 3:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Now, I am a member of the 49th Precinct Community Council, so I will be at the 49th Precinct. I will not be able to go around and visit others in my reporter's role. So if you want to come see me, say hello, come to the 49th Precinct Council at Loretto Park between Morris Park Avenue and Tomlinson Avenue. Now, the times vary. This is 6 to 9 p.m. They start, the earliest one, which starts at 3:30 p.m., is the 52nd Precinct. This is so that the elected officials who cover more than one police precinct can go to various police precincts. And this is August 6th is the date, National Night Out. These are, as I mentioned, the Bronx locations. And I am going to close here now and say thank you for watching. I hope you come out. If you don't come to my precinct area, come to your police precinct area where in your precinct, as I mentioned, where they are. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finance,